Hey guys, it's Matt from MDAC here, and today I'd just like to present a short video about using the MapMate software to reconfigure the crank sensor trigger that you're using in your Rabbit ECU project. So I'm on the bench today, and I have my Rabbit ECU, have MDAC MapMate, and also my trigger simulator. And I'd like to reconfigure my Rabbit ECU as a 36-6 trigger today. That trigger you'll find in a car like Suzuki Swift with the M15A engine. So first thing I'm going to do is get online with the Rabbit ECU by plugging in the USB cable. And you can see straight away running the 36-6 triggers upsetting things because the trigger isn't configured correctly. So let's go ahead and first of all upload the cal out of the Rabbit ECU. That's always the first step you take when you're going to make a change in MapMate. And I recommend at this point getting offline if you're going to make a major change to something like your trigger configuration. So we can go into the base configuration window now and see exactly what the current trigger setup's for. And if you have a bit of experience around this, you can probably see that this is a very simple trigger. I've been running with a distributor, so as you can see, it's just a really simple one pulse per event off the Hall effect sensor in the distributor. So what I'm going to do is basically just load a new trigger configuration, and it's already predefined in the trigger configuration wizard. 36-6 is the Suzuki M15A trigger. You can see there's a bit of a graphical representation of what the trigger looks like down the bottom here. But most importantly, all of the data that's needed to configure for this trigger is automatically input over on the right hand side here. The only thing you might ever want to change is the actual timing offset. If you can put a timing light on the engine and fine tune the timing offset. Okay, so at this point, let's just save that file. Okay, as a 36-6. We'll save that trigger. To download, obviously we need to get back online. So I'm going to plug in my USB cable. And all you need to do is hit download. And yeah, this process can take a few seconds. Okay, so we've been able to download the trigger for the 36-6. So if we go back to the gauges window, you're going to see that didn't fix the mismatch immediately. There's a few settings that are needed to actually be configured at startup. So what we need to do now after we've downloaded is actually freeze the calibration into the memory of Rabbit ECU. So let's go right ahead and do that. And I'm going to reboot the ECU at this point, which is something you need to do after you freeze the cal. Okay, so you notice things are a little different now. I'm going to just tweak the trigger simulator. You can see we've got an okay RPM signal now. Things are a bit more stable. But most importantly, if you go into the system, you'll be able to see in there your crank error counts. Whenever the crank error counts are not changing, 0 ideally, but sometimes you do get a few crank error counts on your actual cranking, you can be sure that your crank trigger configuration is correct. Okay, so now that on the bench things seem okay, let's go put this in the car and confirm that everything's okay. Hey guys, so I'm in the car now. I've installed the 36-6 trigger wheel. So let's give it a crank and see how we go. Okay, so things seem okay. Remember the number to look at is your crank error counts. I'll test it a little bit more on the road to make sure we don't get any crank errors, but that looks okay to me. So let's go under the bonnet and take some video of the 36-6 crank trigger wheel.